type attacks, or that Delphox if that is the chosen Mega with that nasty plot. And we've just seen Arash pilot and feature that Pokemon in particular, and we know the potency of it. And then the supporting cast Sinistcha there, really, really useful with the hospitality and the speed control as well, which can be useful in certain situations, especially when you're coming up against Tailwind teams.
And that's one of the key differences as well with, against, I'd say, Arash's a team of 6. You don't have the third or even second potential redirector there in favor of an additional fake-out user and additional changes in terms of more brute force options to get those crucial KOs needed, especially going up against a team like Davide's. You're going to be able to take advantage of them completely.
Yeah, exactly that. So I think all for Davide to do really coming into this, because if you look at their team, they've got that Mega Charizard Y. That's going to bring the Sun. It's great against the opposing Mega Floette, but essentially you're powering up the Delphox, which you'd prefer not to do, because that can cause you all sorts of issues, especially with the natural speed of it and not having really anything with a Choice Scarf on your side to supersede it. Naturally, you're going to have to rely on your own speed control in that Whimsicott. The nice thing that you do have with Whimsicott in particular is that Prankster Encore, so you can catch out those set of Pokemon if you can check the partnering Pokemon correctly, because you don't want to be encoring into a Rage Powder or anything like that, you know.
Yeah, and Jolly Garchomps have been all of the rave this entire weekend, just being able to capitalize off that additional speed and add a bit of disruption potential, maybe with a cheeky little Rock Slide into the opposing Char Y matchups, but it's no protect for attack Chomp with that Poison Jab in order to be able to have some sort of direct answer towards opposing Floette. So I feel like Garchomp Lee may actually be one of the key pieces from Davide's side.
Especially with that Roselli Berry that it's got as well as its held item. It gives it a bit of alleviation to at least take one of those big, powerful fairy-type attacks from that Floette.
And here we go. Our first semi-finals is kicking off. Louis with the Delphox and Incineroar leads versus Davide's Basculegion Whimsicott. We have got Mystic Water Basculegion dealing or threatening so much damage even at -1.
Yeah, and to both of these targets, they cannot rest easy. The fake-outs there, you can go for it into that Whimsicott to at least slow down any sort of disruption or support lines this time around. And you know that Davide probably doesn't want to allow the fake out into that slot anyway, because it's got the Focus Sash, so you want to keep that intact. Do you switch that out maybe into something else, or just go with a Protect here? But you've got to readjust, because that Basculegion is threatening so heavy with a Rave Crash into your Delphox. Staying on the field.
All right, this is a big read coming out from Louis' side. Let's see if Davide is going to be able to catch them out. Tailwind means there's a good chance it might just do that. Mystic Water Leap Predation, or should I say Wave Crash. Basculegion, where do you go? You go into the Sinistcha. Louis making the call, anticipating the Delphox to be respected with a defensive play. Heat Wave misses on the Whimsicott and the Basculegion. Wow, Davide got away with that completely.
Oh, so unfortunate for Louis here. The Heat Wave, suspecting that the Incineroar might be the target because there's no Protect there, but taking advantage of a little bit of room that you might have and just not getting any joy with that. Really unfortunate, because it would have taken that Whimsicott at least down to that Sash, making it a lot easier to deal with. Now you're in a position where, yes, you can use the redirection with your Sinistcha, but with the Whimsicott being a grass type, it's going to ignore that, so it is going to be able to fire off subsequent attacks into the Sinistcha. It is threatened at the minute, and the Whimsicott in a position where it could potentially get its, just those big damages off, or just switch out for maybe the Garchomp to come in and start getting a little bit more offensive pressure on the board.
Yeah, there's no reason not to. It's a great way to be able to cover for it, and Louis has to make that immediate adaptation as well. Due to the speed interactions of the Tailwind now being set up, at least the Incineroar is going to be able to get that intermittent alpha onto the incoming Garchomp. Wave Crash still dealing so much damage at lowered damage output stages because of the Mystic Water.
Yeah, -2, doing so much damage there. Incineroar really appreciating the Citrus Berry and the Sinistcha. Oh, so close. Really, really key turn here to get that Machikotcha off onto that Basculegion. So it's so close to going down now, but it's still sticking around. It's going to be able to utilize that wave crash one more turn. But you've got the perfect partner next to the Incineroar here. You can go for a fake out into the Garchomp to prevent it from moving this turn. It's going to help burn those Tailwind turns. And there's a potential here where you could even go for a Trick Room of your own with the Sinistcha to counteract that Tailwind that is in effect right now.
And you need to be very cautious about how many turns of Tailwind remain if you're going to try to go down the path of a Trick Room setup, because you don't want the Delphox to be caught out of place in terms of the speed interactions, as it's the fastest thing, genuinely speaking, across the both teams at a neutral board state with the speed control.
Yeah, exactly that. I think you do need to be careful because that Delphox is not one of those Pokemon that really appreciates. It's not a Trick Room appreciators. We do see that set up now. Great switch here from Davide to get that Charizard on the board because it's so healthy and it instantly puts a lot of pressure onto that Sinistcha where it isn't able to act as freely as it would like to. Now the Charizard from Davide can go for the Mega Evolution, can throw out a Heat Wave. The Incineroar is probably in range of a Heat Wave now. It's taken so much damage, and the Garchomp really not threatened by anything immediately. It probably doesn't want to take too many Machigotchas, but it's in that spot where it can just do a combination, maybe Earthquake, maybe Heat Wave come out to cover any switches that could be coming from Louis' side of the field.
And this is a great case scenario to be able to observe. Even though you've got the Trick Room set up and the speed advantage, it doesn't necessarily mean you're in the best board state to your advantage. And Charizard absolutely unleashing the sun, undeterred of what is going to happen here. I can see a Party Shot going into it to lower the damage output, but it's actually going to be into the Garchomp instead. Louis has to be very cautious on which Pokemon is going to be switching in and on the receiving end, nay, the mercy of both the Garchomp and that Charizard.
Yeah, here comes that Heat Wave. It's going to hit both targets, not doing massive damage. Really nice switch here from Louis just to take that, but it is a Rock Slide in response. And because of that Parting Shot, the initial Intimidate, not really going to have much of an impact, or not as much of an impact as probably Davide would like to.
And this is a scenario where we just said, once Tailwind does expire, you no longer have the speed advantage, at least with that Delphox, and the Trick Room turns still remain, 3 of them specifically on the field. And Garchomp, it's in a good spot to maybe threaten with a double up into the Delphox, maybe giving incentive for Louis to bring that Sinistcha back in, but it's going to be at the mercy of the Charizard.
Yeah, the Charizard's kind of preventing that hospitality cycling right now, and the Basculegion's not in a bad spot. It is Focus Sash, it isn't got the Mystic Water on Louis' side of the field, so it hasn't got the potency, but it hasn't taken the Intimidate drops either, so it is going to still do a lot of damage into that Charizard despite the sun setup, so, and probably will go before it in the Trick Room. Not wanting to commit to anything just yet, because there is the threat of the Solar Beam as well.
Yeah, and that is exactly what's going to try to come out and catch the Basculegion. Not quite doing so. Rock Slide in Trick Room against Delphox. Not only does it threaten a KO with a critical hit, but the flinches is the important thing. Delphox, will you be able to move and unleash that damage? In retaliation, you can. Psyshock into the Charizard will be dealing thereabouts half of its HP, but we've got a situation where it may be within range of that Basculegion.
Yeah, and that's the beauty about that. I think it was worth the risk there to keep that Delphox out on the field. It did take a lot of damage from that last Rock Slide, but just enough of a survival to allow that all-important Psyshock into the Charizard. Like you say now, the Wave Crash probably in range to take that down. The Basculegion quite smartly protected that previous turn, and because of that pressure, we are seeing a switch out from that Charizard. Whimsicott forced back onto the field.
This is a great switch in, however, it could be read by Louis. Going for the Protect, oh, that's going to be susceptible to the Encore. Not trying to go for any sort of reads, trying to play true down the line to ensure better board state for themselves in the subsequent turn. Rock Slide will most likely connect on the Basculegion, deal a tiny bit more chip damage, but now Trick Room turns are starting to expire. 1 remains.
Yeah, and the problem for the Delphox is it's just protected in front of an encoring Prankster, Whimsicott, that can go for that and lock it into that Protect, rendering it useless this next turn, and then it leaves the Garchomp to kind of just get the damage it wants with this Rock Slide onto the Basculegion and the Delphox if it does stay on the field. Now, if you're Davide and you expect that Delphox to switch out because of the threat here of being locked in, you could take advantage of that with your Garchomp and maybe even your Whimsicott and just go for a double battle attack.
All right, Sinister will be bringing the hospitality support onto the Delphox, but will it be able... Oh, wow, read into no encore from the Whimsicott going on the offense. Earthquake, because of the Levitate, it's going to be able to completely ignore it thanks to the Mega Evolution from the Delphox side. This is a catch-up from Davide, an attempt that is with the Incineroar switching, completely capitalize off of the Delphox if it's going to be able to connect, whittle down the damage onto the Garchomp. Clearly, both of our trainers in half a mind in terms of getting that additional board state improvement going.
Yeah, now the dimensions flip back to normal, so that Delphox will now be the fastest thing on the field. It will be threatening a knockout onto that Garchomp, and more importantly, the Whimsicott this next turn, if there's no speed control from Davide's side, where they can now click that Tailwind button and immediately put the Garchomp ahead of the Delphox. But you risk doing that in front of a Sinister that's now active on the field. You don't really pressure a knockout there, and it can just flip the switch once again to that Trick Room and put the favor back on Louis' side of the field.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that may well be what Louis was looking for. There's not a lot of times that we can say Trick Room gets set up, not once, but twice. However, Heat Wave absolutely punishing the Whimsicott switch out. Garchomp's able to survive with 3 hit points, not pick up a KO onto the Delphox, but Sinistra, will it be able to get the Trick Room set up or flinch? It does! Louis back in the driver's seat and has those options of switching more Pokemon in and out in favor of the Delphox.
Yeah, the Charizard a really nice switch in here because you say, oh, immediately puts the pressure onto the Sinister. The Delphox, the slowest thing out of the 2 offensive threats on Davide's side. But right now, that Sun is gone. The Heat Wave is not powered up. That Sinister in a much safer spot than it was previously. And now, the ability where Louis can switch out that Delphox into the Incineroar. We've already seen how little damage that Garchomp's got. And with how much HP it's got remaining, a Machagotcha is going to be enough to pick up the knockout onto that Pokemon and remove that big threat, taking Louis one step further forward to hopefully closing up this game 1.
Whimsicott switching back in, hopefully wanting to be able to get some mileage, but the Life Dew ignoring the obvious Machagotcha KO onto the Garchomp, wanting to get a bit of recovery now onto the Delphox. Heat Wave outside of Sun is not enough to pick up the KO on the Sinistra. Delphox under Trick Room operating, picking up the Heat Wave KO onto the Whimsicott. 10 hit point survival with the Charizard, which, even though it's quad resisted to the Sinistra, may even go down to that Machagotcha.
Yeah, I think you're right, Costa. It's so close, and that Garchomp, we know it's got 3 hit points left, so that will definitely go down if it re-enters the field now. So the options are looking pretty limited. Louis controlling the field and doing it so well in a really obscure way because the Delphox doesn't really like to operate in these Trick Room environments, but it's doing such a good job. Now the Basque Legion comes onto the field.
Wow.
Is there enough in the tank to be able to take down this Sinistra? Could an Aqua Jet take it down?
22 hit points. You know what? Because of the Mystic Water, it just might.
And because there's no Sun active on the field as well, that could definitely be a factor here.
But surely you switch in the Incineroar, right? Do you have a reason not to?
No, I think you could switch it in here, get that Intimidate, get the Machagotcha, just clear both of these, Charizard and the Basque Legion, and there's not really much option for the idiot to switch in that Garchomp either, because if that comes onto the field, yeah, you could maybe get your Charizard out to get it back onto the field and get that Sun in effect again, but you're just giving...
There it is. The attempt.
It's
unsuccessful! 2 hit point survival. Double connect with the Machagotcha means Louis has been able to pick up the Basque Legion, but not the Charizard. 1 hit point survival. Invisible Focus Sash, clearly accompanied by that Megastone, but even though it's happened, will it be able to give a lifeline to Davide in this endgame? Heat Wave, double connect, picks up the Sinistra, but the Delphox, it still survives. 14 hit points. You got the Incineroar on the back, and the Garchomp on its way in with no protect. Charizard is down. Delphox proving to be the better fire type in this game 1.
Wow, what a turn here for Louis. The survival after survival there were key. And now it comes down to that Incineroar, like you quite rightly said, can come onto the field, can really easily just click that fake out support, allow the Delphox to get a big, important side shock into it, and then get one step closer to closing up this game one.
Mate, I don't know how Louis has been able to just masterfully craft this matchup with two Trick Rooms set up and Delphox absolutely operating and succeeding under when the Trick Room, when, you know, obviously being the fastest thing naturally.
Yeah, it's always surprising, isn't it? You just think,
that's it.
How have you done it? But with so few hit points left on the Garchomp,
wow,
even a fake out there is going to be enough to take it down. And yeah, utilizing the Trick Room. Who would have thought? Delphox.
Yeah, flying under the radar, clearly.
Literally, yes.
Yeah, that is so impressive. Like, I can't explain how impressive that is. And just understanding what needs to be done and the certain win conditions and board states that you need to be able to advance through and somehow getting out on top of it. So going into this game too, where do we go from here? Like, if you're Davide, do you feel like that was good enough for you, but maybe there were a couple of turns that you could better optimize?
It's really difficult. I think if you're going to bring the Garchomp and rely on that so heavily, I think you need to get it off the field quicker too, or you need to try and get around the Intimidate cycling, because that really hindered the ability of the Garchomp to effectively get the damage it needed to onto that Delphox. Whereas unintimidated, you're going to have extra damage. You're going to be able to at least pressure a bit better.
Yeah.
But the way that Louis is able to cycle the Incineroar and the Sinistcha pretty freely doesn't make it easy to get around. Maybe leveraging the Charizard a little bit better and maybe foregoing your own Tailwind here, because yes, you want the Tailwind to get ahead of the Delphox, but at the same time, each and every time that you had that active, the option of the Sinistcha was on the opposite side of the field to just counteract that.
Yeah.
And then for the next few turns, you're really at a disadvantage. And then when the Tailwind ends, you're still at a disadvantage because of the slower options that Louis is able to take advantage of.
That is so tough to be able to essentially go up against right now. The Bastion Legion, who would have thought in Sun, under Trick Room, being able to put on so much pressure over on Davide's side, but we have got the leads going and a Sinistcha actually being brought ahead now next to the Delphox versus the Charizard and the Garchomp on Davide's side.
Yeah, now you've got the Garchomp in a much more comfortable position, I guess, with the Rock Slide. It's not intimidated, so it can go for that right now and double up with a Heat Wave. So that combination is really nice. Heat Wave really threatening that Sinistcha as well. Knockout when that combined with the Rock Slide. So likely going to say it switch out the Incineroar, the obvious play to come in here, and maybe a Protect from this Delphox. But I don't know if we're going to see the Charizard. It is, yes, going to commit to that Mega Evolution.
Yeah, I was going to say this could be a potential bait as well in order to get the Charizard to immediately Mega Evolve and just go on the offensive, bring that Focus Sash in and not even going for the Mega Evolution as well. And yeah, it seems like Davide may have actually fallen to that idea. However, it could be a potential of just lowering the HP of the Incineroar to be quite crucial.
Yeah, and you're not really too worried now about the Garchomp. On -1, you know you're going to be able to take these Rock Slides pretty comfortably from it. And if we do see a Mega Evolution from the Delphox the next turn, if it stays around on the field, then it is going to be able to get ahead of the Garchomp, get some all-important Psy Shock damage off onto the Charizard, which then, like we saw in that game 1, puts it in range for the Bastion Legion whenever it does enter the field to be in knockout range of a Wave Crash.
Yeah, and this is such a beautiful play, that turn 1 from Louis. Like we said, the bait in order to set up the Sun and now go on the offensive as well. There's a good case that just going for the Heat Waves may be great, but you are in prime position to go for the Nasty Plot.
Yeah, and that's it. If you can get a Nasty Plot off, you really supersede the ability to lay the damage that you require down on these. You turn, you know, 2 hit KOs on the Charizard into 1 hit KOs, and then the same can be said with the Garchomp as well. There's not much that can take a +2 Psy Shock, but in response to that threat, Weather Ball coming out, doing some respectable damage, but nowhere near enough at this stage. Now that Delphox +2 special attack, it is going to be able to pick either target here, and whichever one it does land into, it's likely going to pick up a knockout alongside it. You've got to be wary that you don't pick a target that switches out for the Incineroar, but no switch!
Oh, no switch! Psy Shock! Oh, wow! It survives on 4 hit points. Rock Slide now being dealt damage. damage onto Louis' side, but the question is, Heatwave is going to be able to capitalize. Goes for the Heatwave. Delphox!
Oh!
Delphox! 2 hit point survival. Parting shot into the Garchomp slot. Getting that pivot action going. Now lowering it to -2 of its attack. And what a crucial survival.
How did the Charizard survive the +2 side shock? That is incredible. And then the Delphox to survive. The Heatwave gets another shot now, of course, making it even more difficult. You feel like Davide had pulled it back. That Charizard was huge there. But no, the Delphox saying, if you're going to survive, I'm sticking around too. Let's go for round 2.
And Hospitality going ahead and getting your copper whilst you're at it to make sure that you can deal so much damage on the other side of the field. But I was going to say, at -2 attack Garchomp, I don't even think it can pick up a KO with a Rock Slide on this Delphox. So this may well be attack Delphox Trick Room setup.
You could go for that. You could just go for the Machagotcha as well if you don't want to set the Trick Room up, because remember, at this stage, the Delphox has got the speed advantage, right? There's no immediate threat of that Whimsicott setting a Tailwind up, so you don't need to worry about it so much. Do go for maybe a bit more of a supporting role with the Sinistcha here. Maybe go for a Life Dew if you're confident in being able to fire off a Heat Wave here, or just use it as bait like we're saying, and pivot in that all-important Incineroar and Intimidate.
Absolute MVP alongside that Delphox, that double connects. Heat Wave, oh wow!
What?
That was like 70% of the Garchomp that resisted. That is absolute bonkers. Garchomp hoping to be able to pick up a K on the Delphox, but stopped at -3 attack. 6 hit point. Delphox is running away with this game, giving so much momentum for Louis to make it into the finals.
It's right down to the wire each and every turn as well. And now, so beautifully done by Louis, able to switch that Sinistcha back in this next turn, get that Hospitality going again, so you can get a little bit extra HP. Exactly. But now, in response, Davide got that Basculegion onto the field, which is going to be non-intimidated. It is going to have the pressure of that Aqua Jet priority. It's going to be able to pick its target this next turn.
Yeah, and at this point, you just need to make sure that the Sinistcha is well, safe, positioned in terms of the Delphox being right by its side, dealing all of that damage, the ferocious damage. And at this point, Incineroar even going down is okay, because Garchomp is not a threat, but Davide may be trying to catch a subsequent encore turn later on.
Yeah, and this could be awkward here, because now if you... And a really good play from Davide, because if you expect to protect on the Delphox, which is likely to come out now, you're going to be able to trap it in this next turn with the well-timed switch to that Whimsicott. Really well done. Yes, you get your Sinistcha, but just covering in case we see no protect. Really covering all bases, showing why Davide is at this stage of the tournament not done yet, not ready to go down, and in a prime position to punish that protect on this Delphox. Does Louis switch it out, because you have got the Rage Powder, but Whimsicott being a grass type, able to ignore that and goes directly onto the Delphox, lock it in with a protect, and then utilize, leverage your Basculegion that can go after that Sinistcha.
There's a beautiful level of foresight that Davide was able to put on show there, but it's not over. Delphox has to be forced out. It cannot protect itself. Davide at this point has the momentum, but he needs to keep it up, not slow down, and that is why he's going on the offensive. Moon Blast into the Sinistcha, maybe a double up with the last respects is enough to be able to get the deal done. Kasib Berry most likely not going to allow it, but at that range, it is definitely not enough. And so much value to be able to lower its HP, but the Machagotcha is going to double connect. It goes ahead, breaks the Focus Sash on the Whimsicott, deals half damage onto the Basculegion, and gets all of that luxurious steamed tea back into its belly.
Now, yeah, what a great play there from Davide, saying, I know how much of a threat your Delphox is under. I know it's going to switch out. I'm going to concentrate all my efforts onto the Sinistcha, but the Intimidate, so useful there to allow the Sinistcha to be able to take that Last Respects. Now, it is going to be threatened this next turn. Last Respects still threatening it pretty hard. The Incineroar as well, in a real pinch, because a Moonblast into that slot will be enough. A Last Respect into the Sinistcha will be enough. How do you get out of this situation? You've got the Delphox in the back, but you can't switch it in on either of these attacks. It's taken so much damage so far. Davide looks like they might be able to pull this game back, take us maybe to a game 3.
We're going to have to see how it unfolds. Delphox may well be the sacrifice in the peace exchange of a trade-off. Fake out into the Whimsicott, making sure you deal a bit of damage. Last respects will finally get rid of Luis's Mega Evolution piece. Now, this is in favor of Sinister or even potentially the Basque Legion in the back for Luis to wrap this game up.
Yeah, and then you got to remember that there could be the Basque Legion there as well, so it's not down and out just yet, and there it is. And it's got that security of the Focus Sash. But the one thing that Davide has the advantage of is they can put their Basque Legion ahead of Luis with the Tailwind here, and you've still got the Garchomp in the back. So you get that in, you get ahead of the opposing Basque Legion, you get it down to its Sash, and then try and get around the pieces remaining that way, but a lot easier said than done, of course, in response. If your Basque Legion takes one last respect from Luis, then it is game over, and you are down to just your Garchomp and the Whimsicott. And by going for the Tailwind, you ignore the fact of taking down the Incineroar. That's still an active threat. You don't want to allow that to get any damage off unnecessarily here.
There might even be the case that Davide goes for the double up onto the Basque Legion if they feel confident that their Basque Legion will be able to outspeed to make sure that he can cover for that slot, but no, targeting the Sinister now, actually getting that read, but the last respect, it does go into the Whimsicott, gets rid of the potential of a speed control affair from Davide's side. Basque Legion on Luis's side has not moved just yet, has absolutely broken the Focus Sash, and we're in a scenario where either Pokemon can go down to any hit, and the Garchomp in the back for Davide is going to be the fastest thing on the field.
Yeah, now without that Tailwind in effect, it's not even a question here. The Garchomp isn't going to be able to take an Aqua Jet. You would imagine that's going to be very close, isn't it? There's no Mystic Water on Luis Basque Legion, but it could be an option here. Any hit onto the Basque Legion on Luis' side, it's going to go down.
Yep.
The Sinister does have the redirection, but a spread attack from this Garchomp here, a Rock Slide, an Earthquake will be enough to take it down, but there's still room to maneuver. There is still the Incineroar to come in and that Intimidate to drop.
And Incineroar is on such low health protect from Luis' Basque Legion in order to make sure that the board positioning is set to a point where you have a bit of HP recovery in the subsequent turn via the hospitality from the Sinistra. Incineroar is essentially the sacrifice piece whilst being able to still get a lot of profit because of the damage reduction.
And what might be a big game changer is this Sinistra coming back onto the field. Yes, you've dropped an Intimidate onto the Garchomp, onto the Basque Legion, but the Sinistra now getting that hospitality activated once again, giving that all-important, vital HP regaining to the Basque Legion on Luis' side, which puts it out of range from an opposing Aqua Jet, giving it a freer time. And we know the speed interactions here, which Basque Legion is going to hit first, but you've got to worry about that Garchomp before anything else.
Yeah, mate, this is an absolute nail-biter. There's still some outs for Davide to go for the Rock Slide. Flinch potential if he feels that he's just not going to be able to get a lot of traction. It's all building up to this. No protect from the Sinistra either. It's really going to come down to the focus or the spread. Davide has one shot now to force that game 3, and it's going to unfold. Aqua Jet trying to focus down onto Davide's Basque Legion, not dealing any sort of damage. Dragon Claw not even going for that potential of the flinch. Gets rid of Luis' Pokemon, but Matcha gotcha. Do you double kick that? You don't, because you have no opportunity. Last respects is going to force that game 3. Davide is not out of contention.
Wow, incredible comeback from Davide. And again, the margin's so fine, right down to the wire. You couldn't have said it would have been any closer. Woo. But keeping that Garchomp, keeping the Basque Legion in the positions for the very end goal. Davide saying, I'm not done yet.
No.
I want to go forward. I want to go further in this tournament. And this is going to go right down to the wire. The survivals we've had so far have been absolutely crazy.
I know.
And I imagine it to continue even further into game 3.
Oh, yeah. If you thought it wasn't thrilling with the first and second games, guess what? We have got a third, a delicacy at this point. An absolute treat between both of these fantastic trainers. Now, so many mind games, so much of a log to review from those first 2 matches. Louis wasn't able to get out on top, but it, like we said, came in very close. Davide trying to focus down on just getting the damage quick and easy. Where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here, Costa? That is the question. I think both of our trainers are probably feeling exhausted after those two
as are we
sets.
And the audience.
But you've got to nail it down now because it's all coming down to this next game. I think that the Delphox is obviously the big problem for Davide, and being Louis able to get that nasty plot up was so advantageous. So you've got to go for that, try and get that up again, utilizing the Incineroar, and maybe, does the Sneasler make an appearance for that double fake out support?
Ooh,
I think that the sacrifice, though, it's hard because you're sacrificing either the Basket Legion or the Sinister there, which both feel very valuable pieces, and I don't know if you can afford to do that going into this game, because the Trick Room we've seen, if the Tailwind is opted for, Davide didn't really go for it in the last game, and it paid off.
Yep.
So, do you need the Trick Room so much in this scenario? Maybe you could go down that, but the Hospitality is so valuable.
It is, and for a good reason. We've said time and time again, this is the best redirector in Regulation Set MA. It will most likely make another return in the back this time round. Incineroar and the Delphox has leads from Louis' side, and we saw the interaction of the game too. The Tailwind was set up, but the Mystic Water Wave Crash did not focus down on the Delphox. It went for the Incineroar. Are we expecting a flip on that scenario?
Yeah, you could do and go after it, because if you get that Delphox, I think the pieces around it start to fall, the offensive threat is gone, and your game plan becomes a lot easier. But I don't expect Louis to give it up so easily. I imagine a Protect here as that Sinister makes its way onto the field to help counteract the threat of that Basket Legion. But has Louis left it open to take a devastating Wave Crash from this Basket Legion?
We're going to have to find out, unless this is just a safe Mega Evolution into Protect in order to cover your ground. But Protect from the Whimsicott, no setup in case the Sinister does come onto the field and get that Trick Room scenario going. Now, Wave Crash was trying to target down the Delphox. You wanted to keep it honest. At the same time, you've got a dual sort of scenario of a pin with the Encore potential, as Rage Powder will not redirect that Grass-type Whimsicott's Encore.
No, so I think you are in a position where if you are Louis, you're going to have to switch that Delphox out this next turn. The Incineroar is a nice bring here because you can drop another Intimidate onto that Basket Legion. You can Rage Powder to protect it as well from the threatening Wave Crash, while the Whimsicott maybe sets up a Tailwind, and seeing through that, and the back of that, Davide bringing in the Charizard, which if the Tailwind sets here, it's not, but can be set the next turn, could be in a really dominant spot.
Oh, Matcha Gotcha trying to break the Focus Sash on the Whimsicott, failing to do so because of the miss. Deals a 12 hit point damage onto the Charizard, but there had dual purpose. Break the Sash and also deal good damage onto the Basket Legion.
Yeah, really nice play here to get the Incineroar onto the field. Now you got the fake out, so you can slow down that Charizard this next turn. Maybe reposition the Sinister here to keep that Hospitality in the back, get it away from harm's way, get the Delphox back onto the field so you can pressure that Whimsicott the next turn. And as we see, the Charizard Y activating, getting that Drought ability, you can then take advantage of that yourself the next turn.
Even though these are going to be resisted Fire-type moves into either of the Incineroar or Delphox, you need to get as much damage as possible. Encore trying to catch out that Sinister. Louis one step ahead. Double connect with the Heat Wave, dealing thereabouts 20-ish% to both the fire types. But Incineroar, parting shot, has now dropped the Charizard to -1, and you've got that free pivot action going yet again. Options are the Sinister. You could easily go for a Trick Room if you really wanted to.
It's a bit risky going for the Trick Room, I think, in front of the Heat-Waving Charizard. I think you've got an easy switch from that Pokemon back into your Incineroar, though, because then you've got that active fake out the next turn to further support your Delphox, especially if you feel like you're in a position where you can go for a nasty plot here, which I feel like the Delphox can. And by bringing that fake out in with the Incineroar the next turn, then you protect yourself against the potential Encore threat that could be there, and then Delphox is essentially good to go.
I think that's like, you were definitely in the flow there, and I completely agree. agree, because it's such a great way to be able to be 2 turns ahead, essentially, and ensure such a clean board state for yourself. And that's what we're going to see, at least in the form of the Incineroar. There's no reason why you don't want to go for it. But the Delphox just going for the raw damage here. If the Focus Sash would have been broken from beforehand, the Whimsicott would have been down. However, it does proc now. Doesn't seem like there is a burn. The Charizard going on the offensive, most likely after the Moonblast focus into that Incineroar. 93 hit point remaining. The Citrus Berry proc. Weather Ball is its strongest fire-type move that it does not opt to go for. Heat Wave is once again the option, even at -1 special attack.
Yeah, I really do actually like the play of just going for the Heat Wave there. You could have went for the Nasty Plot. It puts you really far ahead, but I think just getting the initial damage onto the board is really valuable, and you've not got the reliance now to have to click that fake-out option. Now you can go for a potential parting shot into one of these targets if you would so like to. Heat Wave again, it's going to pick up the knockout onto the Whimsicott. What does it do here? Does it switch out? Does it protect? Or does it go for a last touch Tailwind?
Yeah.
Which then could be counteracted turns down the line by that Sinister, so it is risky. What do you go for? What do you value? And do you see this Whimsicott being a part of the end game? Because right now, if it stays on the field and tries to attack, it's just going to go down to another Heat Wave, and the Charizard's also not going to appreciate that either, and probably get a parting shot as part of its trouble. So Davide needs to make some adjustments here. Maybe the Garchomp coming in could be a nice option.
I could easily see Louis trying to go on the offensive in terms of the setup potential with a cheeky little Nasty Plot, but switches the Basculegion in. Now in favor of the Incineroar, and there it is. The plot has been set. You've got so much damage potential on board right now. Heat Wave trying to slow it down, bringing it to 67 hit points remaining because of that critical hit. That was a lot of damage, but you've got the speed advantage. No Tailwind has been set up, and this Delphox is absolutely skimming through the sky.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a little bit in danger now of a Rock Slide. You're going to have to try and pivot the Incineroar onto the field to drop an Intimidate onto it, just to kind of keep that Rock Slide from getting the knockout onto the Delphox here. So then you obviously can pick up the Charizard with the Psyshock here. You've got to be careful with your targeting, of course, as well. Davide could have the Incineroar on the back. You could switch it in on the Psyshock, waste your turns, and then leverage the Garchomp with the Rock Slide, which would be detrimental. So like we're seeing here, probably just the Intimidate, Protect play, and then you've got that Fake Out support the next turn as well.
It's so much safer, and Davide is going to have to risk a lot if he wants to try to be one step ahead and maybe get the subscript encore due to the switching of the Whimsicott, which isn't this case. 62 hit point survival so far with the Incineroar. We've already seen its Citrus Berry being proc. Solar Beam actually trying to focus down on that Basculegion, sticking true to that option of making sure the piece is removed. But Louis, with that swift, smart little switch in there, is in such a prime position to go back on the offensive.
Yeah, now you've got to wait to stop that Garchomp in its tracks this next turn, target down into the Charizard with that Psyshock, or if you prefer, you could go after the Garchomp, double into that if you don't expect. There's no Protect option there, so it's an easy one to say, okay, well, I can stop you. Can I take an attack from this Charizard, though? That's the problem, and as we see, the switch out coming out from Davide.
What's the focus going to be? Fake Out was trying to go for the Chomp indeed. The Charizard most likely not going to be able to deal that much damage. Heat Wave does double tap. It picks up the raw KO onto the Charizard. It was at such of a low range to be essentially picked up by a +2 special attack in the sun. Double target Heat Wave, which is madness, but that is why this Pokemon is so good. That is why there are 2 of these Pokemon in the semis.
Yeah, and the Whimsicott making his way back onto the field now. Sunlight has ended, so that Heat Wave not going to be as potent as it was before, but the damage I feel has been done. The Basculegion, it takes a +2 Heat Wave, it's going down. The Delphox in a position, though, where it will be susceptible to getting knocked out by an Aqua Jet. The Incineroar, anything water type, will knock that out. A Moonblast even into that slot will knock it out. And now you've got that Tailwind that can be activated from the Whimsicott to put that Basculegion ahead of both of these Pokemon.
All right, defensive switch up from Louis, wanting to preserve the Incineroar for a future turn, whilst also getting a bit of HP recovery onto the Delphox. Such a beautiful synergy between them. Aqua Jet says no! Davide made the read, did not expect the Delphox to slow down the momentum, and this may well be a winning play to to force Davide into the finals. So much momentum lost from Louis in that particular interaction.
Yeah, really punishing turn here from Davide, and really well done, because saying, if you don't protect it, I'm just going to go for it. I don't need to overextend myself here. I don't want to take any risks, because the next turn, I'll still be in the same sort of situation. I'm going to get this knockout if you don't, and that's exactly what's happened.
Yep.
And now that key piece is fallen. The main piece of the puzzle has gone for Louis, and got a lot to do to pull this match back. Remember, they've got key pieces left, but Davide feels like they're in the driving seat right now.
And that's what he's going to have to make sure he doesn't lose the focus on the grasp of this game, because Louis, he ain't no stranger to high-level VGC play. If he's going to try to find a way out of it, you can bet that he will.
Yeah, and exactly that. The Sinister in a good position to protect that Incineroar for at least one turn. But the threat of the last resort, the last respect, and the Moonblast there are really present. I mean, the Whimsicott going to be threatened by a fake out here. You don't want to just carelessly let it go down. So probably protect here from the Whimsicott. Do you protect the Basque Legion, or do you just pick a target and say, I'm going to go after something and get a return? Because we know the Garchomps in the back that could come in. The big key piece that you want to remove, though, is that Sinister before the Garchomp could really activate.
All right, so Whimsicott wanting to make sure it could better position itself, remaining on the field, because it is such a crucial piece in order to not only go on the offensive, but potentially lock Louis' Pokemon in with Encore. Last Respect, not enough to pick up a KO thanks to the Kasib Berry, resisting or halving the damage received, and there it is. Trick Room has been set up, and that is why Davide wanted to protect the Whims. Now there's a direct threat of the Encore reversing the Trick Room.
Yeah, and you can go for that now and quite freely go for an Aqua Jet into the Incineroar slot. If it stays in, it's going down. If it switches out, then you just get additional damage onto the Basque Legion that is in the back, right?
I feel like the Rage Powder priority bracket being +2 may be able to redirect the Aqua Jet at +1, right?
Yeah, so you have to be a little bit more careful with how you play this out. Maybe preserving Basque Legion here is the better play. Switching into the Garchomp might not be a bad idea, and then you're on the field in front of the Intimidator, and you can get that key important damage onto the Sinister the next turn if you do manage to lock it in to the Rage Powder.
Rage Powder at +2 is going to be able to trump the Encore potential, but even before then, the Aqua Jet, due to the speed interactions, the Basque Legion is technically the faster thing. Under the reverse scenarios, Encore is now dealt onto the Rage Powder for a couple more turns. Throat Chop is the most important thing here. It picks up the KO onto the Basque Legion. There was nothing to stop the damage being dealt onto that slot, given Davide's focus now. Garchomp is going to be able to find a way around this within Trick Room conditions. There's so little HP on Louis' Pokemon.
Yeah, I think you've got the option here if you're Davide where you can protect the Whimsicott. Just click Earthquake. You know the Sinister's locked into that Rage Powder. You can't really switch out into anything. Nothing really wants to come in an Earthquake. And Incineroar is in a spot where any Earthquake damage onto it is going to be enough. So Davide in a pretty strong spot despite the disadvantage of speed, but if you switch the Incineroar out to whatever's in the back, the Sinister can survive. Then you've got the Incineroar to cycle in with the Intimidate, depending on what is in the back.
It's Basque Legion.
Basque Legion to come in, How much health has it got left as well? That's a big question, because you need to get the Intimidate cycling. Has it got enough in the tank to be able to take multiple Earthquakes? This Garchomp's pretty healthy. It's going to take a lot to take this down.
All right, the fact that we're going to be seeing it make its way onto the field surely suggests it's going to be able to have enough in the tank. Throat Chop finally gets rid of the Whimsicott. No critical hit needed when you've only got 1 hit point remaining. But the Garchomp, it's now trying to go for all of the focus and the pressure in order to save Davide's chances of making their way through to the finals, but not enough. Not enough at all, I don't think. The Sinister comes back onto the field. You have got so much pressure because of this Trick Room now already still being in play, and the Basque Legion going for a free 150 base power, last respects.
Yeah, it's going to be too much, I think, at this stage. With 2 turns of Trick Room remaining, it just feels too many. You could go for the double protect here, and I think you have to, really, at this stage, to try and get yourself into a stronger position. But even then, have you got enough in the to be able to remove that Basket Legion with 1 hit? Because that is all that the Basket Legion needs, 1 hit. And especially when it's combined with this Life Dew, it is going to put it out of reach and in a position where it can just close this matchup for Louis.
Very safe play from Louis, and it's looking like he's going to be able to push his way through into the finals. Earthquake, no chance, even with a critical hit on being able to pick up the KO on the Basket Legion. Davide was hoping for a throw that Louis is refusing to give. He's the first finalist.
Incredible play from Louis.